We had our winners already. We had SOS versus Classic. SOS took the quick 2-0. Classic dies to a cheese, attempts a cheese, loses both matches, and now we're going into our losers. Shine versus GuMiho, and whoever wins this is going to have a really, really, really tough time against Classic in that final match.
Classic just looked overwhelming in the first game that he played today against SOS. He didn't stand much of a chance, but it's going to be a tough match for either Shine or GuMiho. Whoever advances the consolation match can really overcome the Protoss play and advance to Code S today. But first we have to find out who is actually going to take that Terran versus Zerg that's coming up next.
Yeah, that's what we're going to see here. I think... What do you think? I think Shine is actually maybe even going to take a 2-0 here.
I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that, to be honest. I don't know who's really going to take it here. I'm not quite sure how strong GuMiho currently is in the matchup. But the thing is that both of them, in my opinion, are a little bit more on eye level than the games that we saw before.
That's for sure.
So I could definitely see this going over the entire distance, because so far we had only 2 zeros in the group.
What's also interesting is because this matchup is the unique one, both players probably practice more for the Protoss matchup, because there's 2 Protosses in the group. So this might be the matchup they practice for the least. But it's probably a matchup they both expected to hit. I mean, both of them expecting... I mean, if I'm GuMiho, I'm expecting, well, it's great if I beat Classic, but if I don't, is Shine also going to have beaten SOS? Like, probably going to have to play against Shine.
Well, the thing is that they also played in, especially of course, GuMiho played in the Code A qualifier. If you prepare for that tournament, you have to prepare for all the races.
True.
So that's something where they just can continue the practice. But we're going to find out who's going to take it right now. We're jumping into game number 1 between Shine and GuMiho. The GSL Code A with Palmer.
Shine versus GuMiho.
And GuMiho, he starts to the top left in the first game of the best of 3 here in the losers match at the GSL Code A Group A. And he's going Towel Terran with a little bit of a baffled expression on his face. Is going up against the Zerg opponent. To the top right of Habitation Station, we have Shine for Team MVP.
There's a shot of him, the former TSL Zerg. And giving us a nod of confidence there, the camera, not knowing that we were looking at him. This is going to be a good one because, like you said, these 2 players are more on eye level than their previous opponents, who were just clearly, possibly even 3 steps ahead of them.
Well, I'm personally really interested to see what especially GuMiho is doing here. He was one of the players that tried to be a bit innovative in the end of Wings of Liberty in this matchup. He's usually very solid, especially with his drop play against the Zerg play. He was shut down against Classic with his attempts to drop in his opponent's base. Against Shine, that might work, especially if Shine doesn't get a hold of that. We saw him completely neglect that warp prism that SOS used against him in the first game. If something similar happens here, I could definitely see GuMiho take the series. But for now, we just have the normal opening here for both of them. We have Gas for the Terran player, probably going to go into Reapers here to just scout at the beginning what's happening. The Zerg player, on the other hand, straight into his own hatch.
Yeah, right. So expansion up.
And he's going straight for the Gas, so he's just trying to lay the pool for as long as possible. It's a pretty greedy opening against Terran, but not too greedy. I mean, you can squeeze out those additional drones in the Gas.
And GuMiho is going to see really early with his Reaper the gas timing, and also he wants to verify how much gas has been mined if he can. Going to go ahead and drop just the CC right after 1 Reaper. Very quick command center with this one. And there goes that mule. So going to start getting his own economy up, but this is a 2-player map where the 3rd base can be either taken closer to your opponent at a gold expansion, so a harder base to take, especially for GuMiho, I feel, on this map, or you can take the safer 3rd that's to the bottom of your natural, which is further away from your opponent, but also kind of far away from you yourself.
The Reaper at the beginning usually not a big problem. Some Terran players will go into a 2nd Reaper and try to kill a few more of your harvesters. This is just basically a means of scouting. not expected to take any big hits. Usually you just go and build Extractor with the drones that are being attacked at the beginning. Because he squeezed out the Extractor and the extra gas, he doesn't have anything in the early game, so he needs to be careful here. Doesn't even have to start a Spore Crawler. Shouldn't put that drone back into the reach of the Reaper though. But the Zerglings pop out just in time, the Queen's on the way, and Queen's then shut down the Reaper as for now. The faster gas, on the other hand, is first of all great against Reapers and then the Hellions that usually follow this opening into the game, but you can also try to be a little bit aggressive on your own if your opponent doesn't have a bunker at home. And that is something that GuMiho indeed does not have just yet. So with Reapers, without there being a wall or anything else, you could get a few additional Zerglings and then just try to fall.
Yeah, it's true. I really liked, I was just say I really like that Shine's microed with his Zerglings. Didn't lose a single one to the Reaper. Always playing the weakened ones back. Really important to do.
Yep. There's not a lot, you know, the distance between two bases is not that big, so if you have actually like the speedlings in the game, you can do some damage there. We don't see that just yet. He sees, of course, that the factory has now the reactor, so Hellions is what you expect here, just because that's kind of the go-to thing for every Terran player. Have 1-2 Reapers in the beginning, then get the Hellions, try to force the Zerg player back with the Queens, make sure that he doesn't get a good creep spread, try to limit the creep tumors as much as you possibly can, and at the same time you are kind of safe back at home, unless the Zerg is somehow able to just walk past your army and suddenly get into the natural. Then you have to retreat and you have to be really quick about it.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what China's doing.
Yeah, he's the first 4 Hellions are going to be annoying. I love that drone that hides, escapes death, makes the hatchery. He's going to go for a little bit of harassment, force GuMiho back with the next 2 Hellions, gets a kill, and damages a Hellion. Almost gets a Hellion kill. In fact, he does get it, because GuMiho is not microing here.
And more important even, I mean the Hellion kill is actually big, but quite important thing is that he has 2 of his Zerglings in the main base. And Workers killed 4 with 6 slings, a Hellion and 4 Workers.
And this is the wrong time. I mean, this is usually when the Terran player is the one who's putting the pressure on, stopping creep tumors and maybe getting kills. This is cute with the Viking here. We don't see this all too often in Heart of the Swarm.
I mean, GuMiho is currently getting an F for his defense.
Yeah.
Like, that was...
Fail. Ouch.
That's pretty big. I mean, that's 6 Zerglings, and you know, if he sneaks that pass and the Hellions are on the other side of the map, yes, of course, yes, you're losing things, and it's unfortunate. But, like, he had 2 Hellions there. There are 2 Hellions, and he loses 4 Harvesters and a Hellion. That should not happen. That's pretty bad for GuMiho here. He's actually really aggressively taking that gold base.
Yeah. I think all things considered, it's not a bad idea. And as a Terran player, you can always lift and float away if things get really hairy.
No, that's definitely true. Like, it's a bit ballsy, but it's actually something that he can get away with. We have a Viking there to limit the scouting information, so it's not really... I mean, it's not like Shine is going to scout that immediately, and even if he does, as you already said, he can always just lift and move back. That's okay. If you get away with it, then all the better. And Shine is playing it a little bit more passive, getting the base to the center of the right side of the map.
I noticed the starport's still on the tech lab. He hasn't made any Banshees, or I don't think he plans to, or get Cloak.
No, there's a Banshee.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he got a Banshee.
Okay, okay, there is, yeah.
The Banshee is helping him also if there's going to be a 3rd base, because that's very exposed. Like the 3rd base in the middle towards the gold expansion.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Somehow I missed that. I have no idea how I missed that, but
it's 11 Hellions, by the way, and they are really. Oh wow, they are going for a little bit of the Korean barbecue here, and of course the Banshee helps out against the Queens. Leatic has been started, and GuMiho is going for mech with 2 additional factories coming up now.
That gold base is great for this as well. Going to give him a massive amount of income for adding these structures. Double armory going down. This is going to allow him to get not only the air upgrades, but the ground upgrades. They're all combined, so he can get armor and attack for both types of units, both the ground units and the air units.
Yeah, Meg is just super, super strong. I recently casted actually a Terran versus Zerg between Yoda and Dimaga in the WCS Euro Qualifier, where it went into a 40-minute game where Dimaga had like half of the map and in the end transitioned into 50 Mutalisks at once to end the game. It was pretty insane, and Yoda went also for a mech strategy. So if you go mech, then it's all about how is the ratio between Thors, between potential Hellbats, and of course the siege tanks on the ground. And the Hellions alone already do quite a lot here, because we do not see a Roach Warren. Yep, and without a Roach Warren and Spine Crawlers, you just are going to lose so much against this.
Now, there's the upgrade for Roaches coming out, but no Roaches. 6 of them started. The Hellions, ooh, I think I misclicked there. I think he wanted to click up on the high ground, but the Hellions sneak around the back, as funny as it is. And we're going to have to run around here. He doesn't see the hatchery. But double Thor on the way. Pre-igniter. double upgrades for Meg. Getting a few more drones. The worker count pretty even here, 60 to 53. Plus mules, plus gold base.
Yeah, plus mules and plus gold base, so income is going to be pretty good for GuMiho here. And he's already starting to be a bit ahead. Those Hellions are constant threat with this third base, and the Roaches are finally pushing this back. And we have the Swarm upgrade for the Locust upgrade, the Locust longevity for his Swarm hosts, so that's going to be good. That's actually something that I was really surprised. European Zerg players do not go again for Swarm hosts against mech for some reason.
Actually, it's not all too common for Korean Zergs either, in my experience. Sometimes you do see it, but it's usually more aggressive styles with Roaches and constant trading.
I've seen even more Mutalisk play against mech, just trying to just have something out there to snipe a few tanks and to keep the Terran player back than Swarm hosts. So it's actually really nice to see Shine immediately go for a Swarm host transition once he realizes that he's going against the mech composition. That's going to buy him some time, and that helps him to turtle up a bit, and then he can always try to go into Hive Tech and get Vipers, for example. It's just so amazing to have Blinding Clouds against mech.
I'm actually happy to see this as well. I think this is going to be one of the first times I've seen a Korean Zerg do this against a Terran. Like you said, more often than not, I see either Mutalisk harassment and just trying to pick off tanks and trying to keep the mech army mobile or immobile and keep the mech army from moving out ever, and or Roach pushes and Roach aggression. But Swarm hosts, you see that in the late game, but not usually this early.
I mean, a few of the players that will go for Swarm hosts, for example, Snoot. It's always so fun to see TLO and Snoot talk about like Swarm hosts. TLO absolutely hates them and says like it's super boring, whereas Snoot is like, yep, they win, so I'm building them.
He's actually trading really nicely against these Hellions, not only with the Locust, but also his Queens come forward. And that's a huge loss there to GuMiho's chunk of his mech army. He's going to have to replace those. He may even want to consider adding in the beefier Hellbats instead, or even getting a transformation servo so that you can switch between the two.
Yeah, and Shine is actually moving forward onto that map, just spreading the creep with the Queens supporting all those Swarm hosts. He has Overseers there too, and he's starting with forward Spore Crawlers that you would really like to have against your opponent's Banshees.
Exactly, he needs them against the Banshees. He's going to give him the detection that he needs to deal with Cloak and just help fight the Banshees in general, because the Banshees are going to be there to try to pick off the Swarm hosts and later on maybe even going across the map to try to do some harassment. But I mean, the thing is, when you get up to like 8 Banshees in the late game, they can actually kill hatcheries if you're not careful about that. So,
well, for now we have the 2-2 upgrades for both of them. A lot of additional command centers are now coming up, and all the Locusts in the middle of the map are being taken down by the Hellions with, by now, Blue Flame. We still have the barracks spotting all the Locusts and of course also the Swarm hosts here, but this is starting to be a very sieged up position by Shine, whereas GuMiho is attempting to use the mobility of the Hellbats to just sneak by, or the Hellions that is, and go into the mineral line at one of the bottom bases. The problem is there are a lot of Spike Crawlers and also Roaches just waiting for that to happen.
I love that he only uses just a few Roaches to defend this, but that's all he needs. There's the scan, but it's still gonna, well, you know what, he gets a decent amount of kills here, but if he loses all of his Hellions, is it worth it? I don't think so.
Yeah, not really. I love that he borrows them, actually. That forces the scan out, and that's actually a pretty cool move there by Shine. At the same time, the Hellions are getting a fair share of kills, but not as many as he wants to. That's 24 Harvesters killed, but I think he killed how many Hellions? 11?
Yeah, plus the fact that all the 31 Larva and the bank that Shine has built, he can just really easily regen whenever he wants to.
Yeah, Shine is still ahead in overall supply, but GuMiho, with the help of the gold base, is building up that mineral bank. Gas is a little bit sparse, but that's something that happens if you go for mech.
Interesting that he has the orbital here, and it's just going to rally SCVs over. He's just trying to get as many CCs as he can for extra mules, for extra money. And he's going to want to start adding planetaries all over the map. This is what we've seen players do, like Reality, for example, when he was playing mech, is just playing a ton of planetaries at his external bases, knowing that that's what's going to save him against the Broodlords and the Swarm hosts. That's what's going to buy him the time that he needs to hold on and hang in there. This could be an extremely long game, just like we talked about with the Damaga game versus Yoda, where you just have the late game where suddenly there's a 50 Mutalisk remax. That kind of game is crazy, but it does happen sometimes.
That's something that he could definitely do here as well if he gets those additional bases, but with 4 alone, that's not going to happen. He could take the gold base. I actually think that's something that he should do, now that he has this position in the middle of the map. But one thing that he needs are those Vipers. He already has them. The Yanks alone are going to be great for him, but also Blinding Clouds against the sieged up tanks are just going to be amazing. And his transition into Broodlords has started. The Great Aspire is completed. He's going for the double upgrades most likely for his air units, already starting the armor upgrade, but with the second Spire, we should see +1 attack come up very soon too.
Yeah, this is starting to become a very scary situation for GuMiho in some ways, because he's trapped on these bases. Taking another base after this is going to be difficult. And he's going to start to get worn down by these swarm hosts that are moving closer and closer because of the queens, because of that creep spread.
That's a goal base that I just talked about. If you have that safe position in the middle of the map and you are trying to pressure your opponent, you can take that goal base, and he definitely should. And at the same time, Shine is trying to be a little bit more mobile with what he has. Moves those locals in again, and here we go. Starts to yank those few siege tanks into the range of the locals. The Vikings, of course, trying to counter that.
He can even, I mean, if he's careful enough, maybe even get a blinding cloud off with the Lave of Locust if he's lucky, you know, if that lines up for him. It's much harder to do that though, because you have to be a little bit closer. Uh-oh, this is a bad time to be on siege. Point defense drone helps out a little bit, but there's that blinding cloud.
Great here for him. Takes down a few of the tanks. Has to move back with the swarm host though.
A little sad Spore Crawler by itself tries to help out against point defense drone. And again, this is all trading free units for expensive units for Shine, and he wants to keep depleting GuMiho's bank. Eventually, it's going to be a battle of who has the more resources. Here's a little Roach run by. Not going to be enough to kill his planetary, most likely, but he's going to try for it.
He's cutting him off of those refineries, and that's important. If you manage that, then you can keep a mech player pretty low. All those Vikings are, of course, going to be an issue now. But that's something where you can later on in the game, if you get your Corruptors in, for example, you start taking down the Vikings, and it's really the threat. It might sound a little bit silly at times, but if you then have this much of a bank, if you transition into Mutalisk, you can win a game like this. There's only one single fort. So if you suddenly have a massive... Like, he's already double upgrading. If he has the resources to go for a transition like that, you can instantly win a game where the mech player just doesn't have enough anti.
This is one of those things about the Banshees I was talking about earlier. He's going to try to target down these queens. There's a lot of transfuses, and that queen is basically invincible right now. And the Corruptors come over. That's why it's important to have extra queens in this matchup when you're up against mech, because if not, the Banshees with +2 attack are going to make quick work of that base.
90 drones already. What Shine wants to do is not only just Spine Crawler and Spore Crawler up, but also get a sick lead in bank. And that's what he's currently attempting. Those Spine Crawlers are doing a great job against the Hellions, but on the other hand, the Hellions alone, if you have this many Blue Flame Hellions, they do some serious damage against you.
Yeah, splash damage is splash damage, no matter what type. And it looks like we'll finally get that last Spine. No! Not quite, very close. A few hit points left. Triple Thor's on the way right now, and he's trying to replenish his Hellion count. He's got a massive bank. Both of these players really do. The efficiency of mech is really scary, but the efficiency of Swarm Hosts and Brood Lords is just as scary because it doesn't cost any money to send out those free units.
I think it's a bit questionable that it goes into Brood Lords now, since we already have 16 Vikings on the map, without him even having seen the Brood Lords. He didn't see the Greater Spire, so I'm not quite sure, but like this is most likely not really going to work, especially since now, as you already said, the Thors are joining the game. We have more and more starbots coming up, so I think by now he saw one of the Brood Lords at least.
Yeah, he's probably going to add a Fusion Core pretty soon too, because he is going to want eventually battle cruisers. Oh no, that's... I don't know what went wrong here, but he definitely did not want to lose those Swarm Hosts.
Yeah, he's starting to transition more and more into Brood Lords, and I do not really like
I don't like it either, to be honest with you.
Like, his opponent has already the composition, and as a Zerg, one of your biggest strengths is actually having the ability to just switch your tech, and that he switches the tech into the wrong composition.
It's like he's switching into what his opponent's already prepared for.
Yeah.
He can actually kill a lot of larva ones. That would be awesome. He goes for the Spine Crawler first, funny as it is. Oh, this actually changes things, though, Counter. Point Defense Drone doesn't save you against fungal growth.
Oh my god, he gets
one more
fungal off, even though there are so many siege tanks. He needs to repair those, and he needs to repair them fast.
He wishes he had a science vessel right now, I guarantee you that.
That was brutal. I mean, he clustered up and ate those fungals.
Point Defense Drone is going down like crazy here. The Banshee's starting to fall. And this is becoming very cost efficient for Shine. Needs one more fungal if he can get it.
Those Vikings are super low.
Yeah, and he's just chasing with the Corruptors, knowing this. That's why we see this crazy kiting. The Thor's targeting as well. But Shine needs to be careful here.
We have +2 armor for them. But it doesn't really matter too much. Yes, he takes out a lot of the Vikings, but in the end, the Corruptors are going to die, and the same fate will also be set for all those Brood Lords. He just can't escape here.
This is a huge mistake. He saw blood in the water. He saw the Vikings were low. And he committed, and now he has to decide what he wants to remax with. I want to see that production tab because he just did remax, and I think it's with roaches. Yeah, 35 roaches.
That's a panic button.
Against the siege tanks, I mean, that's not even going to be what he wants.
That's him panicking. Against mech, like, depending on the composition, roaches, of course, can be good, but if you have siege tanks that are this well upgraded on 3-3, you do not go for roaches. This is too many tanks and too many Thors.
Shine may have dug his grave with that attack. The switch already into Brewlords and trying to get the Corruptors out was one that I think he was concerned about, maybe the switch to air for GuMiho, but I don't know, man. That was a terrible place to attack into. These roaches are not going to work out. These siege tanks are going to blow them up so fast. He tries to tank here on top of the siege tanks, but it just doesn't matter.
He didn't even have to siege up, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right. He really didn't.
I mean, Shine has money, but he can't spend it, and he will soon not be able to spend it because he's starting to lose bases now. There's way too many siege tanks. Roaches are just not the answer. Now we're getting a... Well, for run-bys, okay, he might be able to do some damage with run-bys, but there should be siege-up tanks at all those bases. And we have planetaries.
Yeah.
Exactly, the planetaries too.
And these Ravens are actually not going to be too useful in this situation. And this is a nice little...
enough energy for the Seeker missiles.
Yeah, this is a nice little run-by, actually. The Fusion Core is up, but no battle cruisers just yet. 18 siege tanks, looks like none of them are home.
Yeah.
He turns around. He wishes he had a mothership core.
I'm a little bit surprised he doesn't have anything to defend.
No, this is kind of a mistake here as well.
He had a sensor tower, so he saw it coming.
This is so funny. We're watching his tiny mech army move across the map where he's trying to get some damage done with siege tanks that are unsieged while he sends most of his army home. Both players are going to remax again, but the gas bank for Shine is just not there anymore.
The Banshee is doing damage, and this one tank is just like absolutely amazing. That's
hero
just blowing me away. That's a hero tank being repaired by all those boss SCVs. But at the same time, the supply is currently dropping for GuMiho, but look at this gas bank that he has. He can rebuild immediately if he has the production, that is, of course. And he also has additional bases at the bottom left right now. The roaches for Shine, he's going to lose every single one of them.
No gas bank.
He did damage with that, but yeah, he doesn't have the banking gas anymore, and he already lost the base.
No.
He actually lost two.
These siege tanks are still alive, attacking by ground. He's remaxing with Zerglings a little bit here. He doesn't want to spend all of his larva on that, but he's got to do something, right? He's got to deal with these units in some way. And the Zerglings actually don't have any melee upgrades, only the Carapace upgrades. So they're not really useful at all.
That run-by was good for Shine in the sense that it forced GuMiho back, but he still lost all of the roaches that he built because it was the wrong thing to do against the siege tanks. He just lost his entire army so fast that he wanted to remax with something instantly, and he did that with roaches, and that happens quite a lot if you're facing mech and you're playing Zerg. You lose your army and you go for that. Another option would have been to get even an Ultralisk Cavern. Not the greatest unit, also not against what he had there, but Mutalisk, Swarm Hose, anything. Just composition would have worked better. And now he's losing too much. And without having a gas bank, he's very limited in what he can do.
GuMiho's gas bank is insane. Plus, he has the better gas income. And he's basically slowly remaxing. He's not actually panicking and adding a ton of production facilities. He's just very slowly building up his battlecruiser count. He's also starting to add in a few more Ravens because he knows that the Corruptors are going to be a problem for that. So we have this camping of the Corruptors here. He misses the two Vikings. Could have had those for free. Thors are the Corruptors' worst enemy right now. This is really bad for Shine. I'm not sure what he could do to get himself back into this game. The free units he's sitting at that planetary at the bottom left, the Locusts he's sitting over there, are actually going to be cleaned up. The Swarm Hosts, there's only 5 of them. All it's going to take is one scan and goodbye all the Swarm Hosts.
I do not think that China has a chance to come back in this game. And
I don't think so either, man.
It's a statement that I want to explain a little bit because China is actually taking a little bit of a supply lead. It's just like he doesn't have the gas income to sustain this. And if you are playing such a composition, the problem is that as a Zerg, your biggest strength is to force your opponent into overcommitting to one type of units, let's say siege tanks or Thors, one of the two, and then you build the counter. And that's something he can't do because he doesn't have the gas income anymore, and he won't have the time. The composition that he currently has is countered by what we see. If there's not a massive fungal, like chain fungals, then this is going to end in favor of GuMiho, and Shine won't be able to remax.
Yep, and there's the point defense from protecting all the Vikings. Needs a chain fungal, but the siege tank support is not going to happen. Still at 20 Vikings. Loses the planetary to these roaches. That's a small victory here. And the bank, actually, for GuMiho and gas is starting to disappear.
Yeah, GuMiho should have repaired that planetary. I'm not quite sure why he didn't set those. He was probably so busy with the attack that he didn't focus on that for a second. And now he's losing the SCVs as well. This is definitely an oversight. But we have also more units at the bottom right doing damage. And this gold base is going to fall. But the gold base of GuMiho is also mined out.
Yep, it's mined out. And Shine's still having really at this point an even bank in gas. 2 battlecruisers is not going to be enough. He needs to repair his planetary, and he's not. Here he is now, but it's too late. Maybe he saves it. It looks like he will.
Yeah, he will, but
that's
that was
really
close.
important.
he needs to make sure that he repairs those bases. Like, if he's throwing them away, yeah, then Shine can definitely win the game.
Yeah, Shine's bank and gas gone again here. No answer for the battlecruisers. There's so much Viking support. He can't kill them with corruptors. Neural Parasite is something that he can't really even afford right now, and it's not really going to work out with Siege Tanks. How is he going to get close enough to neural the battlecruisers? He's basically already at checkmate, in my opinion. I mean, what is he going to be able to do? You said it perfectly. Basically, as a Zerg player, you want to force a composition, then counter it, and he just has not been able to do that.
It's also really tough for him, to be quite frank. If you have a complete army like that, the best thing that you can do is really go for Fungals at first, because you are very limited in what you can do there. And what I would like to see a little bit more from GuMiho is more Ravens, to be honest, because Seeker Missiles are great against Zerg, especially when you have clumped up units, and of course you need those point defense drones.
Yeah, he's adding them now. He's also got a gas problem, but he's still got the better army composition. He's also adding Hellions in right now.
Also a great unit because it's an energy unit,
yes.
So you don't lose over time. You can just fall back, gather up energy, and go back in, because we are entering a phase of the game where both players are very low in gas.
Yeah.
And for GuMiho, that's a problem because he didn't repair the planetary at the bottom left.
Yeah. I mean,
but now he's starting to do what we were talking about earlier, having a few tanks back at home and just have the planetaries and the tanks as a setup.
Even the battlecruisers he has back at home, I mean, they're actually going to do so much air-to-ground damage. That was changed in Heart of the Swarm. A lot of people don't know that. They were put back to their original strength.
I mean, the resources lost here is quite sick. What is it actually? 36,000 resources lost for GuMiho? Did I read that correctly? I think that must have been Shine.
I don't even know. I think you're probably right, but this is nasty. Secret missiles going down. A concave for Vikings and battlecruisers.
Shine is getting rolled here.
Nasty to watch this if you're a Zerg player. Cover your eyes. Don't show the children.
This is the part in the game when, as a Zerg, you do not know what to do anymore.
Because there's nothing to do. Basically,
if the Terran player gets in a position where he gets battle cruisers, Vikings, and a lot of Ravens, basically usually it's a lot more Ravens than this, then there's kind of nothing to do anymore.
I hope that you get all the fungals.
Yeah,
that's
chain
all you can
fungals
hope
or something,
for.
but like this is nearly unbeatable. It's very difficult to get, but once you have this army, it's super, super difficult to beat it. Like with a lot of spores, with queens, with corruptors, with good fungals, you have a chance, but the Seeker missiles alone do so much damage to you, and there's basically no army that you can send against this that is really gonna win on an even battlefield.
In my opinion, the moment when he tried to kill all those weakened Vikings, lost most of his army, and then remaxed the Roaches was the turning point of the game, where he made a composition that wasn't really going to do a whole lot for him. He spent a lot of his bank on that, and GuMiho just was rock solid. He didn't even have very many siege tanks at home, but was still able to go back, handle what was happening, and Ultraseum Stronghold is the map Shine chooses. A reasonable choice. It's a big map. It's a great map for Zerg, and you can get that base up for free in your backdoor expansion.
The thing is, if Shine would have been able to get a bigger bank in gas, when he built those Roaches, he would have been better off with mirrorless, because the anti-air that we saw for, like, first of all, GuMiho had nearly no missile turrets. That's thing number one. Vikings suck against mirrorless. They just don't do a lot. There were Vikings there. He had like 15 of them, so you have to be careful. You still need a bunch of mirrorless to make that happen. But he had the gas at that point. But if you look at the rest of the anti-air, there was a single Thor. You magic box that Thor, and then you can chase those mirrorless. And at some point, they can't run anymore because the map ends. And then every single Viking is going to die. The Terran player usually responsible for getting a lot of Thors, but until he has those Thors, he can do more damage, and you mine the entire time. So during that time, you can just try to transition into another composition. But going for the Roaches, that didn't do anything but enable him to go for run-bys. These run-bys did actually more than they should have, because GuMiho didn't repair his bases since he was busy microing on other parts of the map. His multitask was falling off a little bit there. But that was a very technical game where